Bismillah. Please come closer, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina astafa amma ba'd. Yesterday, last night, we covered some ayat in the Quran that have a beautiful story of many lessons that is otherwise not so well known. But alhamdulillah, we covered two of these ayat, and actually the third ayah that was in the same passage was left behind, I recall later. But to be able to understand third ayah, we will have to remember everything from last night. Those who are joining us tonight, they can listen to last night's recording. But what happened is, wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the bequest that was made and how they came, etc., and they swore, and then their testimony was proven to be false. So at the end, the third ayah in that series, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that all of these ahkam, dhalika, these ahkam and these injunctions that have been mentioned, adna an ya'tu bi shahadati ala wajhiha. The purpose for these rulings is so that witnesses, they should give the true testimony. أو يخافوا أن ترد أيمان بعد إيمانهم. Or otherwise they should be afraid that their oaths will be refuted by others. Remember that they had taken an oath and then they were proven to be false. They had first taken an oath, the two Christians at that time, Tamim Dari and Adi, that there was no golden cup, but then they were proven to be false. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept this system because there are two motivations for us to avoid His disobedience. One is the sincere motivation, which is, how can I face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment? That is the motivation to avoid sins on behalf of from the perspective of the believer. But those who are hypocrites or those who do not have concern for the akhirah, their motivation is, oh, I will become disgraced, and my lie will become exposed. This is what Allah Ta'ala mentions at the end. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْمَعُوا وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. Now, inshallah, that was just a leftover from yesterday. If you did not follow what I was talking about because you weren't here, then you can just disregard that part. Disregard being the explanation, but never disregard any ayah in the Quran. Now we are going to tonight's. This is the beginning of a new chapter from tonight. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna anzalna ilayka al-kitaba bil-haqqi litahkuma bayna an-nasi bima araka Allah wa la takun lil-kha'inina khasima wastaghfirillaha inna Allah kana ghafurar rahima. So these are ayat from the 5th juz and from Surah An-Nisa. And these are ayats 105 to 115, like 10 short ayat, inshallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a very beautiful story here as well. This is in some ways a little bit similar to yesterday's story. It involves theft once again. So just like we did last night, we will first just go over the incident that happened, and then we'll go through the ayat and see how Allah Ta'ala is explaining and teaching Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and teaching all of us. There was a clan within Madinatul Munawwara which was known as the Banu Ubayriq. This story is very similar to yesterday's story. I wouldn't say very similar, but share some shared characteristics. One of them is that it involves theft, like yesterday's with the golden cup. And it also, I would say, is a story that is relatively less known, not so well known. And this is an unfortunate reality and shocking as well, that these are stories that are mentioned in the Quran from the seerah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So these are incidents that happened when he was alive, and it's happening in his presence. He's part of the story. So it's a story from the seerah. So if you're studying seerah, we should have come across it, but unfortunately not. And then if you're studying Quran or the tafsir of the Quran is infinite wisdom that can be derived from it, but there's not an infinite number of surahs, 114. There's not an infinite number of ajza, 30. There's not an infinite number of ayat. So we could at least cover the translation with some brief understanding, then we would have come across it. But anyway, is not to lament and be sorry and sad and depressed about it, but rather to motivate us that we need to go back and see how much more we are missing out on. Having said that, this is the Banu Ubariq tribe, clan in Madinah Munawwara. There was a man in this tribe. There are two narrations regarding his name. Bashir is mentioned as the name in Tirmidhi and Hakim, and Tu'mah in Baghawi and Ibn Jarir. So we'll be combining both narrations. His name is either Tu'mah or Bashir. And this individual, the reality is that even though he was living in Medina and he portrayed himself to be a mu'min and a Muslim and a believer, in reality he was a munafiq, a hypocrite. And these hypocrites of Medina were a constant thorn in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, always plotting against him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ مَرَضُوا عَلَى النِّفَاقِ. Amongst the residents of Medina, there are those who are hardcore hypocrites. لَا تَعْلَمُهُمْ نَحْنُ نَعْلَمُهُمْ. You don't know who they are, and we know who they are. Allah Ta'ala is referring to the royal we. He's of course وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. We as in جَمْعٌ لِلتَّعْظِيم. The plurality is to show greatness. I know, but translation is we know. Sometimes the Christian evangelicals, they have taken the translation of the Quran to poor Muslims in different lands, and they say that, the Quran speaks about the Trinity too, because the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, that's why the Quran uses the plural we. نَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. نَحْنُ نَعْلَمُهُمْ سَنُعَذِّبُهُمْ مَرَّتَيْنِ. I will punish them double. So in this story, the reason I mention this ayah is to already give an excuse on behalf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for what shall follow. As the Quran says, لَا تَعْلَمُهُمْ. You don't know who they are. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not know that this was a munafiq. And the munafiqun, by the way, never existed in Makkah. Why? Because in Makkah the mushrikun were in charge, so there was no reason to hide your kufr and act like a Muslim. In Medina, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was granted sovereignty, and it was his rule politically as well as religiously, of course, then they went underground. These mushrikun or Yahud, they went underground and acted like they are Muslims. And they would perform the salah in jama'ah. Subhanallah. Because if they start praying in jama'ah, then their hypocrisy would become exposed, and then they would be known to be an open kafir. So to be a hypocrite, they had to pray. The hadith does not say that the munafiqun did not come for Fajr and Isha. The hadith says that Fajr and Isha, jama'ah, was difficult for the munafiqun. Because they're not motivated by belief in the akhirah, but they still had to go to be a good hypocrite. You have to show up, otherwise you will expose yourself. You'll be a bad hypocrite, and you won't remain a hypocrite. You'll become known as a kafir. So the salah of the munafiqun is وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى. When they stand to worship, they're worshipping in a very lazy manner. May Allah protect us from falling into that category. يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسَ. They are showing off to people. وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. They do not remember Allah. Sometimes they may think like, what am I doing here? Remember Allah here and there, but they do not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was his condition. He was such an enemy, na'udhu billah, that this Tu'mah, he used to actually compose poems attacking the honor of the Sahaba and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then he would attribute it to different people in mushrikun of Makkah and say, look, they came up with these poems. How bad is it? And he was spreading those lines of poetry. Who wrote them? He himself wrote them. So this hypocrite, he broke into a house of Rifa'ah radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. And Rifa'ah is the uncle of Sayyidina Qatada ibn Nu'man. His nephew is more famous. That's why when his name comes in the story, in the hadith, they say, oh, the uncle of Qatada ibn Nu'man. And Qatada radiallahu anhu also plays a role as in the story as follows. So he went into his house and he stole. What did he stole? He stole a very valuable Dir'a means a shield, very valuable shield. And this theft, which time period did it occur in? It occurred in the early days of the Hijrah. The early days of the Hijrah were financially very difficult times, because the Muhajirun had left all of their life savings behind in Makkah al-Mukarramah, and they had come. They had nothing. They had left tremendous amounts of money behind. Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu, starting with him, he had 6 shops. 6 shops he was a clothing merchant. He would import material and they did not necessarily perhaps sell ready-made clothing back then, right? He used to sell material, and he had clothing stores. So many Sahaba left all of their life savings. Like Suhaib Rumi radhiyallahu anhu's story is very famous in this regard, because the Mushrikun of Makkah did not like him. They also had xenophobia. They hated foreigners. So he was Suhaib Rumi. He wasn't Roman per se, but he was from the northern area, and he grew up under the Romans, even though he was actually Arab from the northern Arabian tribe. He grew up with the Romans, and then he ended up in Makkah, and he made a pact with some of the Quraysh to survive in the Jahiliyyah. But he was a foreigner, and as a foreigner he came in. He was a very wise businessman, and he ended up amassing a fortune. So the Quraysh were jealous. Says, why is the outsider making so much money? We need to revoke his citizenship. We need to deport him, or his green card. And when he performed Hijrah, as he left Makkah al-Mukarramah and he was on the way, the Quraysh went out in pursuit to capture him. And he was walking in the desert, and he turned around and he saw that there were some Qurayshi horsemen coming towards him. So from a distance he told them, stop, listen to me. And they stopped. What? They didn't have to worry of him escaping, because open desert, nowhere to hide. لا ترى فيها عوجا ولا أمتا. No, there was no mountain, no valley, nowhere to hide, like the Day of Judgment. So he said, look, yeah, I want to give you 2 options, because he was a businessman, 2 deals. Which deal do you want? First deal is that, I'm an expert marksman, so I have a spear, and I want to throw my spear, and that my throwing the spear automatically equals 1 dead. Then I have a quiver filled with arrows. However many arrows I have equals that many dead, because I will not miss my mark. Then you are a whole group. After all of them are killed, then the remaining ones will come closer. I have my sword. And then I will continue, I will injure or kill a few of you. Perhaps you may overcome me at that point. So that's option 1. Option 2 is that I will identify for you where all of my life savings are stored, the different places I have buried my treasure, and you can go and recoup it all. Just take all of my life savings. So that's how he presented the 2 options. Which one do you think they went for? Right? It was a no-brainer. They reversed their horses and went back. If somebody is wondering, if somebody is skeptical, always devil's advocate, they could have thought he's lying. By the time they go back and find out it was a lie, then he would have been long gone to Medina. But that possibility did not even cross their minds. Because as a Muslim, how in the world would he lie? That is impossible to imagine. So then when he arrived in Medina, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw him. The first thing he said to him is, "Rabihta ya Suhaib, what an amazing bargain you made, and how much profit you have earned, O Suhaib." That by giving up his entire life savings to fulfill the command of Hijrah, from a material perspective, he lost everything, but Rasulullah's first words were Bashara. Glad tidings of what? Rabihta. Which means you have had an amazing profit. Subhanallah. And how did Rasulullah know it? It was that he received the wahi from Allah. As we will learn in today's story as well, he did not have a crystal ball. He did not have complete ilmul ghaib. He had what is called nab'ul ghaib. Nab'ul ghaib means on different occasions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reveal to Rasulullah what's happening. And due to that revelation, he would be able to know what's going on. But by default, he did not have complete knowledge of the unseen. That قُلْ لَا أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبِ. Say, I do not have knowledge of the unseen. It's in the Quran. And that knowledge that was given by Allah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sometimes it's in the Quran and sometimes it comes through the hadith. Both are wahi, right? And one is called wahi matlu. That wahi, you make tilawah of it by ritually reciting it in means of thawab in salah. And there's the other wahi is ghayr matlu, you do not make tilawah of it. And the wahi that you do not make tilawah of, typically people call it sunnah and hadith. But in reality, that is based on divine inspiration. وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He does not speak from his desires. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Whatever he speaks is wahi. And so the story of Suhaib radiallahu anhu, is it wahi matlu or wahi ghayr matlu? Because Allah Ta'ala told Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this is the deal. Was Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam present in the middle of the desert when the deal was made? No. But then he's telling him there is a great prophet. Profit as in P-R-O-F-I-T, benefit, ribh. Right, there's another prophet, he is the only prophet, right? P-R-O-P-H-E-T, right? So, how did he know? Wahi matlu or ghayr matlu? It's wahi matlu. It's literally in the Quran. This is another Asbāb al-Nuzūl we got on the way. This is another Asbāb al-Nuzūl we can mark it off. This is in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the second juz. Allah Ta'ala revealed an ayah about this one. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. Among those whom Allah is so pleased with are those يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ, who ransom themselves ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ, seeking the pleasure of Allah. They give their life savings. They say, no, I want to fulfill the command of Allah. SubhanAllah. So, the Muhajirun were very poor because they left everything behind. The Ansar, whatever they had divided their economy into half. So, in short, it was difficult times. Afterwards, 6th year of Hijrah is when Fath Khaybar occurred. And after that, alhamdulillah, the Muslim economy got better. Then 8th year of Hijrah, Fath Makkah, economy got even better. In 10th year of Hijrah, that's when إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ, and the victory came. So this was a very, very challenging time. These are the days and the nights concerning which we find the stories of starvation, the stories of famine, difficult conditions. So in that time, majority of the staple diet of the Sahaba in Medina was dates here and there, and then some barley bread. When you say staple diet, actually staple, because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's azwaj mutahharat, they say that sometimes you would see the moon, then it would go away and it would come back again, meaning on 1 month. Then we would see another whole moon, another month. Like 2 months would go by and we will not have to light the stove. Why are they not lighting the stove? Is it Uber Eats and DoorDash? That's why you're not turning on the stove. That's today. We're not turning on the stove because we have, subhanAllah, ready-made food coming in. That was not the reason. It was because they didn't have any, they were just eating the dates. We were aswadain. Water, tamar, dates and water. Aswadain. By the way, what is aswadain? Aswad is black. So aswadain means two black things. But with the water black, the water was not black. I mean, things were bad, but if the water was not black, I'm not going to say the water was black. It was not black, it was clear. But aswadain, this is something in Arabic called taghriban. When you have two things that are mentioned together, then you mention the dual form of the more important of the two. So nutritional value, I mean, water is necessary to survive. You'll die from dehydration faster than from starvation. But between the two, the nutritional value of dates is more. It's more substance. So you take the black date and you just say two black things, even though both are not black. Like between Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu was more strong and more dominant personality. So Abu Bakr and Umar are known as Umarain, which means two Umars, but it was actually Abu Bakr and Umar. You may have heard of Hassanain. Who is Hassanain? Hassanain actually means Hassan one, and Hassanain means two Hassan. But it's not two Hassan, it's Hassan and Hussein. All right? Or Walidain, Walid is father, and Walidatun is mother. Walidain actually means two dads, which in the past never happened. Maybe, yeah, right? God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, right? So, but Walidain, Or Abawain also. It means Abun and Ummun, father and mother, but they say Abawain. Qamarain. Okay, I'll stop with this one. Qamarain is, this is interesting because you'll say Qamar is moon, Shams is sun. So between the two, you would think, if you want to talk about the two celestial bodies that are biggest in the sky, there's a lot of other stuff going on too, planets and stars. But the biggest ones are the sun and the moon. So which one is more dominant? You should, Hassan is older, Umar is bigger, so you're going with that. So over here, you should have called it Shamsain maybe. But Qamarain, because the Arabs, they didn't really enjoy the sun too much. It was so burning and hot. But the cool moon in the desert night, they really enjoyed it a lot. In their poetry, in their culture, they loved the moon. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they didn't say a sun came upon us. Sometimes they say that, but they say Tala'al Badru alayna, the full moon came upon us. The sun gives you a lot of heat. Sometimes a beloved can be called a shams in the Arabic poetry. قامت تظللني من الشمس نفس أحب إلي من نفسي قامت تظللني ومن عجب شمس تظللني من الشمس. Right. So he says قامت تظللني. My beloved, she stood up to give me shade. من الشمس, from the sun, from the heat, burning rays of the sun. نفس أحب إلي من نفسي. Such a person who is more beloved to me than my own self. قامت تظللني ومن عجب. She stood up to give me a shade. ومن عجب, something very strange indeed, because شمس تظللني من الشمس. One sun is giving me shade from another sun. Right? Anyway, so Tamarain, Aswadain, the two black things. Black is, one is the black date, ajwa, and the other is the water. And if they got bread, they would be barley bread. One of the extreme luxury items was considered wheat bread. That's part of the story, the wheat. And that's why in Sadaqatul Fitr that's coming up, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would say that if you're giving barley flour, it would be 1 sa'a, which is a bigger unit of measurement. And if you're giving wheat, it's nisfu sa'a. According to some of the madhahib fiqh, they go with this, like the Hanafi fiqh. It's nisfu sa'a, it's half sa'a, because the value of wheat was higher. It was considered a luxury item. And once in a while, they would get some from Syria, from Sham. And then it would be a very big occasion to not having goat meat or something like that. That's like extreme scenario of really a big walima. Otherwise, even having wheat bread was a big deal. So Qatada, he had some wheat, and he had a bag of wheat, which is a very valuable commodity. And on top of that bag of the wheat, he had placed his shield. And this Da'ma, he broke in and he stole the shield. And when this theft occurred, he took it and he kept it in his home initially. But the Sahaba from whom it was stolen, they came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and they complained to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. First, Rifa'a radiallahu anhu went to his nephew Qatada and he told him about it. Together they went out, they made some inquiries, investigated the locality. And the circumstantial evidence was the people said, we saw the light of the fire coming from the Banu Ubayriq home, that they were actually cooking something. So he stole the wheat bag along with the shield. So this is a lamha fikriya, opportunity to pause and reflect. Just because somebody was cooking, it's a big deal. That they were actually, why? Because as we covered already, cooking was not in these days very common. So when the Banu Ubayriq found out that, hey, we're getting exposed because they're narrowing it down and they're coming towards us and we're going to be figured out who we are, they themselves came out and said, we know who the thief was. They accused Labid ibn Sahal. Labid ibn Sahal radiallahu anhu was a well-known and sincere Muslim. He was completely bari and free from any blame. When he heard that his honor was being attacked, he ran out of his house. He unsheathed his sword. He became very emotional. And he said, how dare you blame me for this theft? I've taken oath, I will not put my sword back in the sheath until the truth of this theft becomes clear and it becomes apparent who the actual thief is. Because I don't know who it is, but I do know one thing. It is not me. It's not I, right? So now the Banu Ubayriq got more worried. Like, why did we accuse this guy who is actually taking such a big stand, making a lot more noise? That's the last thing we need. So they went to him and they said, no, I think there was a mistake. Some of our family members, they wrongfully accused you. It's not you. Of course, you will not do something like this. Now what happened is they had to come up with a plan B. The plan B is they went to one Yehudi because they made a mistake the first time. They accused who? A sincere, pious, well-known Muslim. So then they said, let's go to someone that it will be easier for people to believe he was a thief. It will be easier for Rasulullah ﷺ to believe he's a thief, and we will get the blame off of us. But they had to do better than first time. So they took a lot of steps. The first thing they did is they said, let's accuse a Yehudi, right? A Jew. And they went to the Yehudi. They didn't just accuse him. They actually took, the smoking gun. Is you need the weapon that committed the crime when it's a murder. Where's the gun? That the forensic evidence indicates that the bullets came from it and all of that, right? So over here, when it's a stolen item, is that where is the stolen product? So they took that shield and they went to him and they borrowed from him some goods, and they said, we are giving you this shield as a rahan, as collateral. So he got the stolen property. So again, side note is that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's faqr was so much that when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed away from this world, his own shield was, at that time, by a Yehudi, a Jew, as collateral when he had taken a loan. This is exactly how Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's condition was at the end. Even all the way at the very end when he passed away. So this is what they did. So they put there. But then on top of that, they took that bag of wheat, whatever was left in it, they made a small slit in it, and they made a whole path of flour from the house of Rifa'a all the way to the house of the Yehudi. This is planting evidence, false evidence. They made a hole and they made here and there some flour. They dropped it along the way from the house of Rifa'a all the way to the house of the Jew. And then after doing all their homework, they started the proclamation, they started the hue and cry, hey, we know who stole it, it is this Yehudi. So when they followed, the traces of flour were discovered, the word went around, and they did an investigation. They went to his home with a warrant, and lo and behold, what did they find there? They found the stolen item. So they brought him, they dragged him now. When they brought him to the court, the Yehudi, he declared an oath. He took qasam billahi ta'ala, billadhi anzala tawrata ala Musa. I swear by the name of Allah who revealed the Torah on Musa. As a Yehudi, that's his oath. That the Ibn Ubayriq, they're the criminals who gave me this as a rahan, as a collateral. It's not mine, I didn't steal it. So this is a beautiful tatbiq and reconciliation between the different narrations, because there's one narration about the fact that they accused Labid, Sahabi, another one that they accused the Yehudi. So first they did the Muslim, they accused the Muslim, and when that failed, then they accused the Yehudi. So both stories are true. But Qatada, the nephew, and his uncle Rifa'a, who actually was stolen from him, they were very smart and very intelligent. They did not fall for this. Based on circumstantial evidence, they were still convinced that this was Banu Ubayriq. They were cooking it that night, plus the Yehudi is saying, yeah, he is a Jew, but he's saying that they're the ones who gave it as rahan, as collateral. So Qatada radiallahu anhu went to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said that I'm still strongly suspecting the Banu Ubayriq. Banu Ubayriq, when they heard that Qatada radiallahu anhu is not giving up and still talking to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam against them, they came to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and they complained against Qatada and Rifa'a. Why is his uncle and the nephew blaming us? They have no valid legal proof. What more evidence do you need? You have the tracing of the trail of the flour, and you found your stolen items and stolen property is recovered from his home. And they went to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and they complained against them and they said, how dare they blame us? And when you need to blame the Yahudi. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in the beginning, he was also impacted by the statements of Ibn Ubayriq, and he began to become inclined towards the probability that this theft was actually committed by the Yahudi. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was beginning to consider implementing the had of severing the hand of the Yahudi. He didn't do it, he didn't even pass the judgment, but he was moving in that direction. And the most, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to correct him and reveal these ayat and guide him. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went so far that he said to Qatada radiallahu ta'ala anhu that why are you accusing a Muslim family of theft? Remember, لا تعلمهم نحن نعلمهم. You don't know who the hypocrites are. Allah told Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I know who they are. Why are you accusing this Muslim? Is he a Muslim? He's not a Muslim, he's a hypocrite. Why are you accusing him without any proof? So Qatada radiallahu anhu felt very sad in his heart. And he said that even though I really believe it's Ibn Ubayriq, why did I go and tell Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? I should have remained silent because I ended up getting in trouble. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is upset with me. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is upset with me that I'm accusing a Muslim brother and I believe the Yahudi is innocent. I should have remained silent. And his uncle Rifa'a said, okay, that's it. I'll be silent to zip my mouth. I'm not going to say anything, whatever the case is. If the Yahudi who we believe is innocent, whatever happens to him happens. If the criminals are free, so be it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these ayat. And in these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to the reality of the affairs. We covered this in the story of Abasa wa Tawalla, that at the end of the day, whatever ijtihad Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made in any occasion, if there was a slight mistake in that judgment, Allah Ta'ala would always divinely intervene and correct. This is such a, this is an example of that. When the Quran exposed the theft of the Banu Ubayriq, then the Yahudi was acquitted, he was declared free of the crime, you can go back, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was now going to catch the actual thief and implement the had, the Shari'i punishment of severing his hand. But this hypocrite, up till now he was hiding his kufr, he now did not present himself in the court to fulfill this order of Allah, like the Imra Ghamidiyya did when she came and said, Ya Rasulullah, purify me from zina. We covered that story too. He did not come forward. He's been lying all along, he's been a kafir all along, he's a hypocrite all along. What did he do? He fled. He ran away. And he went and joined the mushrikeen in Makkah, and he became an open kafir. Now when he moved to Makkah, he's not from Makkah, he's originally from where? From Medina. So he didn't have any home there, any ancestral home. So he had to rent a house of a woman, and he was staying there. When she heard about this story, that this is the thief from there, that Allah revealed ayat in Quran about him, he's a wanted criminal, there's a warrant out for him, and he's residing in my home, she's the landlady. She wasn't very happy with that. So then what happened is she kicked him out. She kicked him out of the house. And then this person was now homeless in Makkah al-Mukarramah. He committed so many crimes, he's going to end up having a very bad bad death. And finally, you know what happens is that when you have a habit, it's hard to lose a habit. So since he was a habitual thief, he continued his practice. So one day, he was making a hole in a wall to enter, to steal. Because the walls are so big, he can't jump over, so they would actually make holes in the walls, or sometimes tunnel underneath. So when he was making a hole in the wall and he was trying to get through it, the wall collapsed on him. And in the act of stealing, he ended up dying, his ignoble death, his deprived, mahroom death. So that is the individual. And that's how it ended. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is actually exonerating and showing that the Yahudi was innocent of the crime that was alleged. Subhanallah. So there are some beautiful lessons we learn from here. Let's go to the ayat now. Inna anzalna ilayka al-kitaba bil-haq. Indeed, we have revealed, the whole story is done, so we should be able to quickly get through these ayat. Verily, we have revealed to you this Quran, the book, bil-haq, with truth. لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, so that you can judge between people, بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهِ, by means of what Allah has shown you. Somebody asked Umar ibn Khattab when he was a Khalifa, فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَنَا بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهِ, bil-kitab بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهِ, that judge between us on the book of Allah as Allah has taught you. Even though He's the one on like 12 to 14 occasions, Allah revealed the Quran according to His opinion. And He said, no, don't say that. That's for Rasulullah. I can make ijtihad and I can try to interpret the book of Allah, but don't say that my interpretation is divinely inspired. Bima arakallah, based on what Allah shows you. So, the inspiration you get in interpreting the Quran is from whom? Allah. But this is only for Rasulullah, not for me. Who said that? Umar radiallahu anhu. وَلَا تَكُنْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا. Do not be an advocate and argue on behalf of those who are deceitful. The Banu Ubayriq, they're deceitful. They're accusing Labid and they're accusing Yahudi. Don't argue in their favor. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time he saw two people arguing, and then he came and said, what are you arguing about? And then they said that about some land. And then he said, you know what? Whoever is more eloquent in his speech may end up convincing me. And even if I judge the land belongs to him, and if he is wrong in his claim, let him not be happy that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam judged in my favor, because I am decreeing the fire of Jahannam for you. And they both got scared and they said that, no, let the land go to him. And the other one said, no, let the land go to him. Because it's one of those scenarios where there was some ambiguity in the documentation, in the property, when it was like the plotting of the land. So they thought this portion belongs in my plot. They genuinely both thought that the middle area perhaps was on this side of the border or that. So when they heard that, they both said, I'll give you the land. The other one said, no, you take the land. Now they're fighting again. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, okay, now you're fighting again. First you're fighting, it's mine and your, and now you're fighting, no, you take it. You just bent on fighting. No. So then he said, okay, you can take it. The middle portion, which is under dispute, each one says it belongs to the other. So divide it in half. You take half, you take half. So then they were okay with that. Subhanallah. But the point here is that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you kind of outwardly convince me and I fall for it, doesn't make a difference. I'm not decreeing for you, so it's halal for you. It's still haram for you. So Allah Ta'ala tells to Nabi, is instructing Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, do not advocate on behalf of the deceitful. Wastaghfirillah, seek Allah's forgiveness. What crime did he do? He didn't cut the Jew's hand. He didn't. But the fact that he inclined towards the wrong opinion, that is what Allah is saying to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Wastaghfirillah, seek Allah's forgiveness. Inna Allah kana ghafur rahima. Verily Allah is forgiving, merciful. وَلَا تُجَادِلْ عَنِ الَّذِينَ يَخْتَانُونَ أَنفُسَهُم. Do not advocate on behalf of those who are wronging themselves. This is interesting. They're wronging the Jew and they're wronging Labid. But why is it mentioned wronging themselves? It's because when you try to fool other people and you're committing crimes against other people, they're gaining reward in the law, and their sins are forgiven, their station is elevated. Who are you wronging? You're wronging yourself. You're digging your own grave. You are building your own fire. You think you are fooling other people, but you're wronging yourself. Yeah, all right? Inna Allah la yuhibbu man kana khawanan athima. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like those who are deceitful and sinful. Yastakhfuna minan nas. They are trying to hide their deception from the people. Wala yastakhfuna min Allah. They can never hide it from Allah. Subhanallah. People, they avoid sins because they have so-called haya. People shouldn't find out. What kind of haya is that? The true haya is Mawlaka la yaraka haythu nahaka. That my Allah, He should not see me in any condition in which I am disobeying Him. The haya from Allah. Where can we commit a sin that Allah will not see us? Therefore, if you have haya from Allah, we cannot commit a sin anywhere. Mawlaka la yaraka haythu nahaka. May your Lord not see you in any condition that you are disobeying Him. They do not have haya from Allah. وَهُوَ مَعَهُمْ. Even though He is with them, Allah is with them. إِذْ يُبَيِّتُونَ مَا لَا يَرْضَى مِنَ الْقَوْلِ. When they are plotting, يُبَيِّتُون. Bait. What is a bait? Baytullah. Bait is home. The bait basically is bata yabitu baitan, means to spend the night. Where you spend the night is your bayt, your home. So, the food from yesterday, if that is served today, the old food, it's called bait, because it spent the night, hopefully inside the fridge or on the table if it doesn't need to be refrigerated. So the food that spent the night is the yesterday's food, basi kind of, right? It's called bait in Arabic. Anyway, so when the night, ma la yarda min al-qawl, they're plotting things that are displeasing to Allah. Why are they doing the night? Because it's more concealed. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطًا. Allah is fully aware of what they do. They were plotting, let's blame Labid, let's blame Yehudi, all that stuff. Making the trail of the flower. The trail of the flower is a very interesting part of it. ها أنتم هؤلاء جادلتم عنهم في الحياة الدنيا. Here you are, some of the believers, you're advocating for them in this life. Some of the believers fell into this whole plot. They were saying, this Muslim family, the Banu Ubayriq, they're okay. Why are you advocating for them? فَمَنْ يُجَادِلُ اللَّهَ عَنْهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Who's going to advocate on their behalf on the Day of Judgment? You guys going to come and advocate for them? أَمَّنْ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَكِيلًا. Who's going to come to their defense? وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ سُوءًا أَوْ يَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ. Whoever commits evil acts or wrong themselves, right? If when you are hurting other people is su'an, and you are violating the orders of Allah that do not affect anyone, then you are doing wrong to your own self. ثُمَّ يَسْتَغْفِرِ اللَّهِ. There's always a good opportunity to make tawbah. The bright side of the affair is mentioned here. Then you seek forgiveness from Allah. يَجِدِ اللَّهَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. You will certainly find Allah is ready to forgive. Allah is ready to shower His mercy. وَمَنْ يَكْسِبْ إِثْمًا. But whoever is bent upon committing sins, right? فَإِنَّمَا يَكْسِبُهُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. He's only going forward for his own loss. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. Allah is all-knowing, He's wise. He knows what you're plotting. وَمَنْ يَكْسِبْ خَطِيئَةً أَوْ إِثْمًا. Whoever commits an evil or sinful deed, ثُمَّ يَرْمِي بِهِ بَرِيئًا. Then he blames it on an innocent person. So committing the sin is wrong, and then blaming the innocent person is further wrong, wrong upon wrong. فَقَدْ احْتَمَلَ بُهْتَانًا وَإِثْمًا مُبِينًا. He's going to have additional guilt of slander, buhtan, and a very blatant sin, mubina, clear, evident, blatant sin. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ. If it was not the fadl of Allah upon you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَرَحْمَتُهُ, and if it was not the mercy of Allah upon you, لَهَمَّ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ أَن يُضِلُّوكَ. Then the group of these Banu Ubayriq, they were so sly, they were doing extreme plotting, and they were so beautiful, strong. They were so effective in their speech, they would have deceived you. وَمَا يُضِلُّونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ. The reality is they're not going to deceive anyone but themselves. وَمَا يَضُرُّونَكَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. They're not going to harm you in the least. Why? Because Allah is going to help you. He's on your side. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. And Allah, He revealed the book and the hikmah. There are two things. The book is wahi matlu, Quran. The hikmah is wahi ghayr matlu, the sunnah. The sunnah is the way of wisdom. وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ. This is beautiful. وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ عَظِيمًا. And He taught you that which you knew not, right? وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ. Allah Ta'ala taught you that which you did not know. When a student comes to a teacher, the teacher continues teaching him. The teacher doesn't tell the student all the time. This is like negative reinforcement, right? You didn't know this, you didn't know this, you didn't know this. Oh, yeah. And teaches him, said, you guess what? You didn't know this either, right? Does the teacher say that? No. The teacher, what does the teacher say? MashaAllah, you learned this, MashaAllah, you learned this. But in the Quran, again, to reinforce the fact that all of the knowledge is not something Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came up with, Allah Ta'ala repeatedly says that I'm teaching you that which you did not know. So we make nisbah of the Quran to Muhammad or attribute it back to Allah. Right? Like Surah Yusuf, beautiful story. Right in the beginning, Allah Ta'ala says, goes out of His way to say you didn't know this. نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. We are revealing unto you the best story of all times, ultimate rags to riches, from the bottom of the well to the throne of Egypt. وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. And before this revelation, you had no idea about this story. That's what we do as a profession. We are teachers, so we don't tell the student every day. He's going to say, why am I sitting in class? Of course I don't know, man. How much you want to rub it in? That's why I'm here to learn. You want to keep on telling me I didn't know this? Right? So, وَإِن كُنْتَ مِن قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. You didn't know this. Allah Ta'ala is reinforcing that concept because He's reminding He is not writing this up. This is being revealed by Allah. تَنزِيلٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, so that's what Allah Ta'ala says here. وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ. He taught you that which you knew not. Allahu Akbar. وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ عَظِيمًا. Indeed, the favor of Allah upon you is so great. The favor of Allah upon you is so great. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم. There is no khair and goodness in these secret meetings that these people have, right? They're plotting. They did a lot of plotting this time. That's why the plottings keep on coming up. إلا من أمر بصدقة. All of these groups that have these meetings, there's no khair in them. إلا من أمر بصدقة. Unless they are planning to give sadaqah in charity, أو معروف, or to do good deed, أو إصلاح بين الناس, or to reconcile people. Like lying is such a major sin. لعنةُ الله على الكاذبين. But they're mentioned in hadith 3 places it is permissible. One is al-harbu khid'a. In war is deception. You can deceive the enemy, you can lie. There's a beautiful example, but it's too late for tonight, about in the battle of Khandaq. Maybe we'll do it one night. There's an amazing lying and spies that went on in there, on the Sahaba side. Right? And then number 2 is to reconcile people. Like, it is permissible to lie to reconcile people. She actually was remembering, you and fondly the days in the past, and she was saying, it was so nice in honeymoon and all of that. She remembers you. She never said a single word, but it is absolutely permissible to reconcile the husband and wife, reconcile business partners, whatever. And number 3 is, speaking of spouses, when the husband and the wife, it is permissible for them to lie, but I will use this term like white lie, not a black lie. What I mean by that is, not any lie is permissible. What type of lie? That type of lie that actually will be, again, a type of islah, where you are doing it to strengthen your relationship. Right? So because what is the definition of a lie? Al-bayanu lima huwa khilaf al-waqi'. To express something which is contrary to the actual facts of the matter. So if a wife cooks something and she completely messed it up, or in the beginning she's learning, or even if it's okay, even if it's a good meal, but if the husband says, for example, this is the ultimate best biryani or kebab or whatever I ever had, is it factually true? He may have had, from some at a walima, or some beautiful, some amazing chef may have made a better biryani. So he literally just lied, right? Right? Or I have never seen a woman in my life more beautiful than you, right? So this is getting a bit too sensitive. So in any case, so it may actually be a lie. We don't even consider that a lie, but it is, and this is a permissible one. If the wife asks that, where were you last night? And he says, Mufti Minhaj took the tafsir all the way to 1 a.m. Right? But where were you last night? And you lie about it, you were somewhere else, right? You're not here. That's why none of you would do this, because you're all here with me. Hatta matla'i al-fajr, right? So the thing is, if somebody lies where you were last night, and he says that he doesn't lie only, what does he say? It's in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you can lie to your wife. ظُلُمَاتٌ بَعْضُهَا فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ. Darkness upon darkness. First is the lie, then the rationalizing it, that the hadith says so. This is like Iblis, he committed the sin, then he rationalizes, خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. You created me from fire, you created me from dirt. Rationalizing. Fire goes up, dirt goes down. Okay? So anyway. Allahu Akbar. So, إِصْلَاحٍ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. Whoever does this to seek Allah's pleasure, فَسَوْفَ نُؤْتِيهِ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. We'll give him a great, great reward. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ. On the other hand, whoever breaks away from the messenger. Who did that? The Banu Ubaydah. What did he do? He ran away to Makkah, joined the mushrikeen, and then the landlady there kicked him out, and then he ended up dying, making a hole in a wall. Allahu Akbar. مِن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى. After the hidayah was clearly evident to him, because the Quranic ayat revealed about him. وَيَتَّبِعَ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And then he adopts a path other than the path of the believers. نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمْ. Then we shall, say, you know what? You choose what you want. That's fine. هَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. Allah gives both options. إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. You have both paths. You want to be a kafir or you want to be a shakir. You choose kafir, go with it. وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمْ. Then we shall admit him to Jahannam, وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا, which is an evil place to return to. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. We have, I believe, the children here. We went over time. There's a father and sons event. May Allah Ta'ala accept the fathers and sons who are here and allow them to benefit this night. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So I will hand it over to Mawlana Farhan, who will take it to the next program.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As Mufti Minhaj mentioned, alhamdulillah, we have our father and son event taking place. We would like to welcome everyone. Jazakumullahu Khairan for coming once again. Alhamdulillah, last year was a night filled with activities and whatnot. So inshallah, we're looking forward to the same. Tonight, we will begin the event with some refreshments downstairs. So we do request all the fathers and sons to kindly please proceed downstairs, and we'll get started from there. Jazakumullahu Khairan.